Good evening, everyone, members, officers, and those who've joined us remotely. Welcome, and all our YouTubers too, everyone who's joined us on YouTube tonight. Welcome to this meeting of the Tunbridge and Moorland Borough Council Cabinet. For the benefit of all of our watchers, observers, YouTubers really, who are watching on YouTube, members of the Cabinet are present in the chamber, and these members will be voting on proposals this evening. Other members of the council are also in attendance and or are participating via Microsoft Teams, and they can take part in any discussions and ask questions, but they cannot vote. Now, just ask those members who aren't members of Cabinet if you could just introduce yourself when you speak. Can I also draw everyone's attention to agenda item 1? This is the guidance on how meetings will be conducted and sets out the ground rules for all council committees, including this meeting of Cabinet. We are going to introduce ourselves to start with. There are a couple of absences today, but I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Matt Borson. I'm the Chair of Cabinet Council. Kim, perhaps you go next. You can introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. Kim Tanner. I'm Cabinet Member for Finance and Housing.
Good evening, everyone. Cabinet Member for Community Services, Councillor Deskies.
Martin.
Good evening, everyone. Martin Coffin.
Thank you. Robin Betts is sadly feeling a little bit under the weather today, so might not be able to join us, as is Mike Taylor, who's joining us remotely. Mike, are you able to introduce yourself?
Yes, Mike Taylor, Cabinet Member for Planning, and my apologies for not attending in person.
That's okay, Mike. We wish you and Robin the very best with your recovery. If I can perhaps ask officers to introduce themselves too. Perhaps I'll start on my left. Alison, do you kick off?
Alison Paris, Principal Democratic Services Officer.
Damien Roberts, Chief Executive.
Jill Fox, Policy Scrutiny and Communities Manager.
And we've got officers joining us online. I'll just read you out in the order that I saw you join. So Adrian Stanfield.
Evening, Chair. I'm Adrian Stanfield, Director of Central Services.
Thank you. Robert Stiles.
Good evening. I'm Robert Stiles, Director of Street Scene, Leisure and Technical Services.
Thank you. Eleanor Hoyle.
Good evening, members. Good evening, everybody. Eleanor Hoyle, Director of Planning, Housing and Environmental Health.
Stuart Edwards.
Good evening, Stuart Edwards, Head of Administrative and Property Services.
And Sharon Shelton.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Sharon Shelton, Director of Finance and Transformation.
Thank you very much, Sharon. As I said earlier, if other members can just introduce themselves at the appropriate time, that would be very helpful. Robin has joined us online. As I said earlier, Robin is unwell, so can't join us in the chamber this evening. But Robin, I'll call you in as appropriate if you are well enough to contribute remotely. So that brings us on to agenda item 1, which is the guidance on how meetings will be conducted. Agenda item 2 is apologies for absence, and we have apologies in the room from Robin Betts and Mike Taylor due to their respective illnesses. Agenda item 3 is declarations of interest. Does any member have any interest to declare? No? Right. Agenda item 4 is the minutes of the meeting of Cabinet that was held on the 12th of November 2024. These are available from page 15 of the agenda. Can we agree these minutes, please? Thank you very much. They were agreed unanimously. Agenda item 5 is a recommendation that came from the Finance, Regeneration and Property Scrutiny Select Committee of the 19th of November. This relates to a series of fees and charges which are available at the bottom of page 27 and over the page onto page 28. Kim, Tanner, do you wish to add anything to what the committee came with?
The reason for an increase to fees and charges is the same as every year. It's to cover our costs primarily, but also to charge realistically in line with the market. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kim. As always, I'll come to members who aren't in Cabinet first, of which you are all online, so please do stick your virtual hand up if you have any to say, which I don't see. I'll come to other members Cabinet too, who don't have anything to add. So, Kim, if you're happy to propose that recommendation, which you are, I'm happy to second. Cabinet, can we agree the fees and charges from finance regeneration and property? That is agreed. Thank you very much. Right, we'll now skip on to page 49, which is the reviews of fees and charges for discretionary planning services. I say page 49, but actually eagle-eyed readers of the agenda will notice this is on the supplementary at page 3 of the supplementary reports, because it came from the Housing and Planning Scrutiny Select Committee of the 3rd of December 2024, which took place after our agenda for tonight was published. On page 3 of the supplementary, you shall see 7 different recommendations. As before, I'm not going to read through them all individually. Kim, again, fees and charges, anything to add?
Really just to cover costs and ensure that we're not out of pocket when we're providing some of this work. Some of it is extensive work and some of it is carried out by high level officers. Therefore, cost of that needs to be covered. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kim, any questions from any members on fees and charges? No. And I don't see anyone from Cabinet wishing to speak. So again, Kim, if you're happy to propose that, I'm happy to second the 7 recommendations at the bottom of page 3. Can we agree those, Cabinet, please? They were agreed unanimously. Thank you very much. Right, we now stay with the supplementary paper and we move on to agenda item 7, which was in the same meeting, and these are HMO and caravan site licensing fee charges for 2025-26. There are 3 recommendations on page 5 of the supplementary. Kim, anything to add?
I would just say that they're fairly minimal increases, again, just to cover our costs. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm looking for any hands. Can't see any. Neither from Cabinet. So, Kim, if you're happy to propose, I remain happy to second. Can we agree those unanimously, please? They were agreed unanimously. Thank you very much. Right, again, sticking with the supplementary, we are on agenda item 8. This is the local plan engagement strategy and estimated local plan budget. At page 8, you will see 3 recommendations that came from the same meeting of the Housing and Planning Scrutiny Select Committee. Mike, your hand is up. You wish to say anything to these?
Yeah, I made the point at Housing and Planning to offer my sincere thanks to the planning officers who put this together. There's a lot of hard work behind it, and they've committed themselves to an awful lot of work next year. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike. I'd entirely agree with that for sure. Any members who aren't in Cabinet wish to comment on this? Don't see any hands. Any other Cabinet members? No, right. In which case, I'm happy to move the 3 recommendations on page 8 of the supplementary paper. Can I have a seconder, please? Martin Coffin, thank you very much. Can we agree those unanimously? That was agreed unanimously. Thank you all very much. Right, we now move on to agenda item 9, which is the data protection policy, and I shall ask Adrian Stanfield to introduce it. Adrian, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to keep the introduction fairly short. The policy that you've got before you tonight is an update of our data protection policy to ensure that we remain compliant with our responsibilities under the UK GDPR and the 2018 Data Protection Act. Really, the critical bit of the policy is, and the bulk of the policy is directed outward facing, so that individual members of the public are able to easily assess the information that will allow them to exercise their data protection rights, whether that's their right to access the personal data we hold about them, whether that's right to rectification, right to erasure. The policy has been designed so it can be outwardly facing and allow members of the public to access their data protection rights very easily and understand how we will deal with those applications. So I wasn't proposing to say anything more than that, Chair, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Adrian, thank you very much. And obviously the policy is at Annex 1 that hopefully everyone has been able to read. Kim, this falls in your portfolio. Do you wish to add anything to what Adrian said?
I think Adrian's covered it all, Matt. Thank you.
Very much. Right. On Obviously, this hasn't been to a committee before, so does any member have any questions for Adrian or comments on the report? Don't see any hands. Agnes, any comments? No. All I would say is I think this is obviously a very important update and an extremely clear data protection policy. So thank you, Adrian, for pulling it together in a way that is perhaps understandable to those of us who aren't experts in data protection. Sure. So thank you very much. I'm therefore happy to propose that we approve the data protection policy at Annex 1. Can I have a seconder, please? Des, thank you very much for seconding. Can we agree that unanimously, Cabinet? We can, super. Thank you very much. And that's our data protection policy adopted. Adrian, thank you. Your work on that. That's okay. Right. We now move on to page 169. This is our community grant scheme. I'll ask Jill to speak on this.
Thank you, Chair. Yep, the report seeks approval for a community grant scheme to mark the Council's 50th year. You'll be aware that we've run similar schemes with UK shared prosperity funds, where we've invited applications from local community groups who are offering services and projects that will support our priorities in the corporate strategy. So similar to that, the annex shows all the details of the application criteria to meet our priorities. At the present time, we don't have confirmation of external funding for a further round of UK prosperity, but we have allocated £87,000 for a one-off anniversary grant scheme. Given that we've very recently delivered a grant scheme, the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, and most of those projects are nearing completion or they're well underway and we're at the monitoring, it's recommended that 50,000 remains allocated to support the 50th year community grant scheme, and the remaining 37,000 is ring-fenced to support further community initiatives. And this could include potentially a phase 2 of the borough-wide pilot enforcement. So the recommendations on 169 and the annex grant scheme.
Thank you very much, Jill. Des, do you wish to add anything to that?
Just to say that as a local authority, it's fantastic that we can again go through another round of using £50,000 support our voluntary and community groups so soon after the last one, and I think it's been wisely allocated. That's all I'll say on this one. Thank you.
Des, Jill, thank you both very much. Any questions on the report from Cabinet? Any other Cabinet members who wish to add anything? No? In which case, as Jill said, page 169 has got 3 recommendations. First, I'll just read these out because obviously we haven't seen this first time being considered by members. The first is that the 50th anniversary community grant scheme is launched with a budget of £50,000 as we come to the close of the Council's 50th year. The second is that the grant guidelines, criteria and application process are annexes 1 and 2 be endorsed. And the third is that 37,000 is ring-fenced to support further community initiatives, including potentially the next iteration of the community enforcement team. I'm happy to propose them. There's happy to second. Can we agree that, please, Cabinet? That is agreed. Super. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Jill. And for all members on the call, make sure that our communities all know about 50,000 for 50 years of Tunbridge and Morley. Great. And I shall keep my excitement up until we've spent all of it. Right. Agenda item 11 is the review of the Tunbridge Community Forum and Parish Partnership Panel. This was a recommendation from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee on the 14th of November at page 181. There are 4 recommendations here. I note we have the chair of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, Anita Oakley, on the call, I believe. Anyway, she was. Is Anita there? I was going to call Anita in to see if she wanted to say anything to the committee's deliberations. However, I note Anita has actually gone, so perhaps I should have alerted Anita in advance. I would see if she wanted to say anything, but never mind. Does anyone else, any other member, wish to comment on the recommendations. Mike.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to thank you for the extra time granted the parish partnership panel to deliberate. They are a very disparate group and it's a bit like herding cats sometimes. So any extra time to discuss it, gratefully received. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And as a parish chairman yourself, you're in a better place than me to consider whether this is herding cats for parish councils or not. So that's good. And that'll come to our next meeting of overview and scrutiny. I don't see any other hands. So just before we move on, I just wanted to, on the third recommendation, just ask cabinet colleagues in the room if you would just agree with me whether we add 3 words to it just to make it sound better. So on the third recommendation at the second line, where it says a section should be dedicated to open discussion, just to add 3 words on that item afterwards, just to make clear that actually the discussions should be focused on the item that is discussed. The wording at the moment indicates that you could discuss any matter under an agenda item about something else. So that's just tidying it up and bringing it to line with the rest of the constitution. So therefore, with recommendations 1, 2 and 4 remain unchanged, and adding those 3 words to recommendation 3, I'm happy to propose. Martin has got their first 2 seconds, so thank you, Martin. Can we agree that, please, Cabinet? That is agreed. Thank you all very much. Right, we move on to agenda item 12, which is a recommendation from the Finance, Regeneration and Property Scrutiny Select Committee of the 19th of November 2024 at page 193 with regards to the procurement strategy. Robert Stiles, do you wish to add anything to the committee's deliberations?
Yes, just very briefly, Chair. I mean, the report does set out approval for the revised procurement strategy to ensure that the council complies with new legislation going forward, and also assists us in ensuring that we deliver value for money in terms of our contracts. And it was also a recommendation that we undertake this review by Grant Thornton in a recent external audit of the organisation. The committee, following a presentation by the Mid-Kent procurement manager, did support the strategy with an additional recommendation linked in with parish councils. And also it was interesting that there were a couple of things that were also discussed. One was member training in this area, which we will arrange. Secondly, that there would be an annual report to the audit committee in order to show progress in this area. And finally, that we would develop an action plan from the strategy to guide us over the next year or so. So I think it's a very positive progress in an area that we certainly spend a lot of time on within the organisation.
Robert, thank you very much for that. Does any member have any questions on the procurement strategy? Looking online for members who aren't in Cabinet to start with, and I don't see any hands. Cabinet members, any questions? Martin?
Not so much a question, just an observation that Grant Thornton, as Robert said, identified that this was an area where we could improve, and indeed this strategy brings that improvement around. We got some big procurement contracts coming up soon, and the help from this from the Mid-Kent procurement group will be invaluable to this council. So I welcome it.
Thank you very much, Martin. Absolutely well said. In that case, I'm happy to propose the procurement strategy and also the second recommendation that the Borough Council's list of contractors be made available to parish and town councils. Can I have a seconder, please? Martin, thank you. Can we agree that collectively, Cabinet? That is agreed. Thank you very much. Right, we now move on to agenda item 13, which is available for us at page 213. This relates to debt collection practices and a potential pilot with Reach Out, again from the Finance, Regeneration and Property Scrutiny Committee. At the bottom of page 213, we have 3 recommendations. Kim Tanner, do you wish to add anything to the committee's recommendations?
The finance team, the Rebs and Bens team, worked really hard to explore every option for recovering any debts, such as council tax arrears, of which we have many, and they try really, really hard to get that money in. But as a last resort, we have to go to bailiffs for assistance. We've now got an opportunity to work with Reach Out to run a trial pilot scheme of 500 cases, and it's for a minimal cost to see if they can intervene and bring us some success in bringing the money in before we go to bailiffs. So if this is a successful scheme, then hopefully we'll be able to continue it. But 500 cases seems fairly appropriate to see if it works for us. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. Any member, any comments or questions? No, no hands that I can see. Cabinet colleagues, anything to add to what Kim said? No, I think she said it already. So there's 3 recommendations at the bottom of page 213. Kim, are you happy to propose those? Super. I'm happy to second. Can we agree that collectively, please? Super. That was agreed unanimously. Thank you all very much. Right, we shall return to the supplementary paper at page 9 for the tree protocol update that came from last week's meeting of Housing and Planning Scrutiny Select Committee. You will see that there are 2 recommendations at the bottom in relation to this. First is that option A, as detailed in the report, is recommended to us. And the second is that it notes that there is a one-off cost of £4. Before I just come to members, I would say, Cabinet, that we obviously need to identify where that £29,000 will come from. So in respect of the second recommendation, can I suggest, please correct me if I don't have this correct, which is that estimated cost be built into the forward estimates as a one-off cost for the 25-26 financial year.
Unanimously supported at the Scrutiny Select Committee, and as it's a one-off cost, we really should go ahead with this.
Thank you, Kim. I can see that with your fiscal rigour that was hard for you to accept that one-off cost, but I'm sure Mike, I'll come to you next as Cabinet Member for Planning, would be very keen to see more money spent in the planning service.
Definitely on this, I could see Kim's teeth gritting from here, but I really did support option A, and I'm glad the committee chose it, because it's a double-edged sword here. We run the risk of missing some of the outstanding ones. They drop by the wayside, and we are putting our tree officer, who's a bloody good officer, we're putting him under intense pressure. And if we can get rid of that backlog, I think we're on a winner. So, Kim, thank you very much for the money.
Thank you, Mike. Any other member wish to speak? I'm to answer Cabinet first, and I can't see any hands. Any other Cabinet member? In which case, I'm happy to propose, as I said earlier. Kim, are you happy to second those 2 recommendations? Yes, Kim is happy to do that. So can we collectively take those up, please? That was agreed unanimously. Thank you very much. Right, we now return to the main agenda, agenda item 15, which is decisions taken by Cabinet members. As always, I shall ask each Cabinet member just to say a little bit about the decisions that have been taken since our last meeting of Cabinet. If any other member wishes to ask the Cabinet member a question, please do stick your virtual hand up, and I shall come to you before doing so. Obviously, I won't run through the decisions that were taken at last full Cabinet meeting, because we had the opportunity to talk about them there. So, and then we're on page 285 now. So then this first decision afterwards was in relation to an application of removal of council tax empty property premium charge from Kim. Anything to add?
We had to decline this request because it's an empty property that it's on the market for sale. It's taking quite a while to sell, but we did decline a similar situation earlier in the year, and it goes against our policy to accept anything like this. So It's with sadness that we have to decline this request, but the house has really got to be sold.
Thank you, Kim. The next one is another one of yours in relation to one new staffing.
We had a temporary maternity cover come in for one of our staff members, and we have since found out that another staff member is going to go off on maternity leave soon, and so we need to extend this cover. And thankfully, we can keep the same person.
Excellent, which is fantastic. So thank you very much. Right. The next decision, enforcement tender results. One of Martin's.
Thank you. This is a result of a tender where we are actually awarding to a different company the continuation of the enforcement for littering and fly tipping. And one would hope with good results, as we seem to be achieving quite well on that. I also note that the next one is down to me. It's not actually mine. That's Robin's.
I had noted that too, but thank you on that. Robin, if you are available still, the next decision in relation to Martin Square lease renewal is one of yours. You there,
Yes,
Robin?
Yes, that's correct.
Super. Anything to add?
No, I think it says it all, everything on the tin on that one. So it's a straightforward lease renewal. It's taken a bit of time, but now decided to go forward. So all is well. Thank you.
Super. Thank you, Robin. The next two were taken at Finance, Regeneration and Property. So the next decision is the extension of fixed term senior planning officer posts taken by Mike Taylor. Mike, anything to add?
Just that we've got to keep numbers up in the planning department, especially as we plunge headlong into the local plan, and we've got all these speculative developments coming forward. So I support that idea. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mike. And the final decision is the East of the High Street Master Plan consultant selection from Robin Betts.
Yes, quite a detailed report on that one that came forward with a number of consultants contacted to tender for it. So with that detailed report, funnily enough, Mace came at the top of the pile, but it was a close call. But in the end, it was Mace that won the day. So, but a very detailed report that came through from that one, which was welcome. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Robin. Right. I don't see any hands, so hopefully everyone is happy with the decisions that have been taken. We shall move, therefore, on to agenda item 16, which is notice of forthcoming key decisions. I would hope that everyone has kept a close eye on their inbox today, in which they may have seen the period for January and February 2025. Notice of key decisions was published in addition to what's on the papers in front of us. So can we note those, please, cabinets? And of course, they're all available on the Tunbridge and Morning Borough Council websites too. Right, agenda item 17 is urgent items, of which we don't have any. So we move on to agenda item 18, and this is where we have to, I'm afraid, say, move into private session because there is information that cannot be disclosed in public. So may I thank everyone watching on YouTube. May I wish you all a happy Christmas. And could I potentially ask Alan to let us know once the YouTube stream switched off?